My wife said, "You're just a small-time wannabe, I deserve real wealth." So when she demanded half my assets to be with her rich boyfriend, I said take it all. She didn't know about the $800K debt that came with it. I'm Grayson, 35M, been married to Delilah, 32F, for 7 years. I run a real estate investment business that looks way more impressive than it actually is. We live in an $800K house. I drive a BMW X7. She drives a Mercedes C-Class, designer clothes, nice vacations, the whole Instagram lifestyle package. Here's what Delilah never understood about my business. Everything is leveraged to the absolute maximum for tax advantages and growth potential. The house, $750K mortgage. The BMW, lease with balloon payment. The investment accounts, all margin accounts borrowing against future earnings. On paper, I look wealthy, but in reality, I own basically nothing outright because I'm using debt strategically. My dad got cleaned out in his divorce 20 years ago, so my lawyer Harold Pierce and I structured everything to protect the actual business while making my personal assets look valuable but be mostly liability. 6 months ago, Delilah started getting restless. "Grayson, you're too conservative with money. We should be living larger." She wanted a bigger house, more expensive cars, fancier vacations. I tried explaining that growing the business required patience, but she'd just roll her eyes. Then she met Quentin Sterling at this charity gala. Dude owns a high-end car dealership, drives a $200K Lamborghini, talks constantly about his real wealth and how most people don't understand genuine luxury. Classic flashy rich guy who needs everyone to know he's rich. Delilah came home from that gala different. Started making comments about how some people know how to enjoy their success, and asking why I don't think bigger like successful entrepreneurs. 3 months later, I found the texts. Quentin's been filling her head with bullshit about how she deserves a man who isn't afraid of real wealth and promising to show her what actual luxury living looks like. Best part, this clown thinks I'm broke. Kept calling me small time and telling Delilah she was wasting her prime years on someone who will never make it big. If he'd done 5 minutes of research, he'd realize my business turns serious profit. It's just all reinvested instead of blown on toys. Last Tuesday, Delilah comes home and drops the bomb. "I want a divorce, Grayson. I've found someone who can give me the life I actually want." Someone meaning Quentin. She didn't even look embarrassed. Yes, he understands ambition in ways you never will. Here's where it gets interesting. Yesterday she shows up with this shark divorce attorney demanding half of everything. My client helped build this wealth and deserves her fair share of the marital assets. They want half the house equity, half the business assets, half the investment accounts, half of everything that looks valuable on paper. Total value they're claiming, about $1.2 million for Delilah's share. I just smiled and said, "Take it, she's earned it." Her lawyer looked suspicious as hell, but Delilah was practically glowing. Finally, someone who recognizes my worth. What Delilah doesn't know is that half my assets comes with half of about $800K in associated debt that she's about to become personally liable for. The house equity she wants. That's $375K in mortgage payments she'll owe. The investment accounts. Those are margin accounts with $150K in borrowed money that needs servicing. The business assets, tied to $400K in business loans that the personal guarantees make her responsible for. Harold Pierce just filed the settlement paperwork this morning. Delilah gets exactly what she demanded, half of everything that appears valuable, along with half of every debt obligation that comes with it. Her sister Madison keeps texting me about what a brilliant woman Delilah is for trading up to real wealth. Madison has no idea her sister just volunteered for financial suicide. Quentin's been posting Instagram stories of him and Delilah at expensive restaurants, bragging about upgrading her lifestyle. Dude has no clue what he's gotten himself into. I'm not trying to destroy my wife, I actually hope she figures out how to handle the debt. But she wanted wealth without understanding how wealth actually works, and now she's about to get a very expensive education. My buddy Marcus from my old construction days thinks I should have fought the settlement, but honestly, this way she gets exactly what she asked for, and I keep the profitable parts of my business structure. The irony is killing me. Delilah left me for being financially small time and ended up volunteering for debt that would crush most people. Reddit, am I wrong for letting her take exactly what she demanded? Part of me feels guilty, but another part thinks she made this bed herself. Update 1 phone's been blowing up since the settlement went through, and reality is starting to hit. Car trouble had me stuck at the shop all day Tuesday. Finally got time to update. The settlement was finalized last Friday, and Delilah officially got everything she wanted. Her lawyer drew up this agreement giving her half the house, $400K in equity, half my investment portfolio, $300K in assets, the BMW X7, and half the business holdings. On paper, she just became worth over $1 million. The signing was surreal. Delilah showed up in this new designer outfit Quentin obviously bought her, acting like she was about to become some kind of socialite. I'm finally going to have the life I've always deserved. Harold Pierce kept giving me these looks like, are you sure about this? But I just signed everything without fighting. Delilah's attorney seemed shocked that I wasn't trying to hide assets or minimize the settlement. Most husbands fight tooth and nail to keep their wealth, he told Delilah. Your husband seems almost eager to share it. If only he knew what sharing actually meant. The celebration dinner Delilah and Quentin had that night was apparently legendary. Her sister Madison posted about it on Facebook. When you finally get a man who recognizes your worth, Delilah is living her best life with someone who knows how to treat a queen. Quentin posted Instagram photos of them at this $300 per plate steakhouse with the caption, celebrating new beginnings with someone who deserves the finer things. The comments were all about how lucky Delilah is to have upgraded to real wealth. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my apartment above the office, which wasn't part of the marital assets, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Monday morning was when the first reality check hit. Delilah called me confused about some paperwork that came in the mail. Grayson, why am I getting mortgage statements? I thought I owned half the house outright. You do own half the house. You also own half the mortgage that comes with it. Your monthly payment is $1,875. Long silence. What do you mean MY payment? I had to explain that owning half a leveraged asset means you're responsible for half the debt. Real estate equity isn't free money, it comes with ongoing obligations. She hung up on me but called back an hour later even more panicked. These investment account statements are showing negative balances. How can I owe money on accounts that are supposed to be assets? Those are margin accounts, Delilah. The investments are purchased with borrowed money. Your half of the margin debt is about $150K that needs monthly servicing. Another hang-up. I actually felt bad for her at this point because she genuinely didn't understand how leveraged investing works. Wednesday brought the business loan documents. Apparently Harold's paperwork made it clear that business assets come with personal guarantee obligations. Delilah's share of the business debt liability is around $200K. That evening I got a call from Quentin himself. Dude, what kind of game are you playing? Delilah's saying she owes money she doesn't have. No game, man. She wanted half my assets, so she got half my assets. Assets come with liabilities. That's how ownership works. You set her up. This is some kind of revenge scheme. I tried explaining that this is just how leveraged real estate investing operates, but he wasn't hearing it. According to him, I tricked Delilah into taking on debt by not explaining that equity and liability are connected. The best part, Quentin's family found out about his affair with a divorced woman and they are not happy. His father apparently runs the car dealership and threatened to cut Quentin off if he embarrasses the family business with this scandal. Thursday, I got a text from Madison. Delilah needs to know how to handle these debt payments. Can you help her figure this out? I actually do feel sorry for Delilah. She wanted wealth but never learned how wealth actually functions. The problem is, I can't make those debt obligations disappear just because she didn't understand them. My construction buddy Marcus came by yesterday shaking his head. Bro, your wife really thought she could take the assets and leave the debt behind. How does someone not know that's not how ownership works? That's the thing though, Delilah grew up poor and spent our marriage focused on the lifestyle without learning the business side. She saw the cars and house and assumed it meant we were rich, not that we were using debt strategically to build actual wealth. The ironic part is that my business is actually doing great. All this leveraged growth is paying off exactly like Harold and I planned. But Delilah wanted the appearance of wealth without the patience to build real wealth. Now she's got exactly what she asked for, and Quentin's starting to realize his upgrade comes with some serious financial baggage. But here's where things get really complicated. Yesterday, Quentin's family lawyer called Harold with an offer that changes everything I thought I knew about this situation. Update 2: been pulling doubles at work all week. Finally got time to write. The debt situation completely imploded both Delilah's life and her relationship with Quentin in ways I never expected. So Quentin's family lawyer called Harold trying to get Delilah's debt obligations restructured because they were affecting Quentin's inheritance status. Apparently his trust fund has clauses about financial stability, and being involved with someone carrying heavy debt threatens his access to family money. When that didn't work, Quentin's father gave him an ultimatum: end this relationship with the financially compromised divorced woman or lose your position at the dealership and your inheritance. Quentin chose the money. Dumped Delilah over text message last month. This situation is too complicated for my family situation. I need to focus on business obligations. Delilah called me crying first time we'd talked since the debt reality hit. Grayson, I made a terrible mistake. I didn't understand what I was agreeing to. The mortgage payments alone were killing her. $1,875 a month when she was only making about $4,000 as an interior designer. Add the margin account obligations and business loan payments, and she was underwater by about $2,000 monthly. She tried to get a roommate for the house, but the mortgage terms don't allow subletting without bank approval, which requires credit checks she can't pass now. Her sister Madison, who'd been cheering her upgrade to wealth, started avoiding her when Delilah asked for financial help. "I thought you were rich now," Madison said. "How do you not have money if you got half of everything?" The BMW X7 got repossessed in March because she couldn't handle the lease payments. Watching her text me about needing rides to client meetings was honestly heartbreaking. April brought the breaking point. Delilah couldn't make the mortgage payment and got a foreclosure notice. The bank doesn't care about divorce settlements, they want their money or they want their house. She hired a bankruptcy attorney who explained that getting half my assets without understanding the debt structure was one of the most expensive financial mistakes he'd seen in 20 years of practice. "Your ex-husband essentially let you volunteer for financial suicide," he told her. "This level of leveraged debt would challenge even high-income individuals." The bankruptcy filing happened last month. Delilah lost the house, the remaining business assets, everything except her car and basic personal items. She moved back in with her parents and took a job at Target to pay for basic living expenses. Quentin, meanwhile, got engaged to some debutante. His family selected a woman whose trust fund matches his family's financial standards. He posted engagement photos with the caption, "Sometimes life leads you to exactly where you belong." The comments were full of congratulations about his perfect match. I actually ran into Delilah at the grocery store 2 weeks ago. She looked exhausted but was surprisingly civil. "I need to ask you something, Grayson. Did you know this would happen when you agreed to the settlement?" I told her honestly that I knew the debt would be challenging, but I didn't anticipate Quentin abandoning her when his family pressured him. "I thought wealthy people just had money," she said. "I didn't understand that debt and assets are connected. I thought I could take the valuable stuff and leave the complicated financial obligations with you." The thing is, I believe her. Delilah isn't stupid, she just never learned how leveraged investing works. She saw the lifestyle and assumed it meant liquid wealth rather than strategic debt management. "Would you have explained it if I'd asked?" she wanted to know. Honestly, probably not at that point. I was hurt and angry about the affair, and when she demanded half my assets, I figured she'd done her research. But I wasn't trying to destroy her life, I just gave her exactly what she asked for. We talked for maybe 10 minutes. She's working on rebuilding her credit and learning about personal finance for the first time in her life. I wish I'd appreciated what we had instead of chasing something I didn't understand. I actually felt bad for her. The affair was wrong, but the financial consequences were way harsher than what she deserved. My business, meanwhile, has been thriving. All that leveraged growth paid off exactly like Harold and I projected. I've been able to pay down the debt ahead of schedule and actually build real equity rather than just apparent wealth. I'm dating someone new, Sarah, a financial advisor who actually understands how real estate investing works. When I told her the story, she just shook her head. Your ex-wife basically demanded half of a complex investment portfolio without doing any due diligence. That's like buying a stock without reading the prospectus. The weird thing is, I don't feel vindicated or happy about how this turned out. Delilah made some really bad decisions, but watching someone's life implode over financial ignorance isn't satisfying, it's just sad. Harold Pierce said something that stuck with me. She wanted the results of wealth without understanding the process of wealth. That's always expensive education. I hope Delilah figures it out and rebuilds something better. But for now, I'm focused on actually building the kind of financial stability that doesn't require smoke and mirrors to maintain. The irony is that she left me for not being truly wealthy and ended up discovering exactly how wealth really works, slowly, carefully, and with full understanding of what you actually own versus what you owe. But there's one more twist to this story that I just found out about yesterday that puts everything in a completely different perspective. Final update: so last week, I got a call from Delilah's bankruptcy attorney asking me to meet for coffee. Weird request, but Harold said it might be worth hearing him out. Turns out Quentin had been feeding Delilah completely false information about my financial situation for months before she filed for divorce. This wasn't just about her wanting more luxury. She genuinely believed I was hiding millions, and that she was entitled to real wealth I was keeping from her. Quentin had told her that my conservative approach to spending meant I was secretly wealthy, but too cheap to enjoy it properly. He convinced her that guys like me always hide assets, and that she deserved someone honest about their money. The attorney showed me text messages that came out during her bankruptcy proceedings. Quentin had been telling Delilah things like, "Grayson's definitely sitting on serious money. No one drives a BMW and lives in that neighborhood without major hidden wealth, and he's playing poor to avoid sharing with you." Even worse, Quentin had apparently offered to help her get what she deserves by connecting her with an aggressive divorce attorney who specialized in finding hidden assets. That's why her lawyer was so confident about the $1.2 million settlement. They thought they were uncovering concealed wealth. The bankruptcy attorney said Delilah broke down during proceedings when she realized Quentin had manipulated her into destroying her marriage based on completely false assumptions about hidden money. "Your ex-wife thought she was fighting for assets you were hiding from her," he told me. "She had no idea she was volunteering for debt because she'd been convinced the debt wasn't real." This changes everything I thought about her motivations. She wasn't just greedy, she was being actively manipulated by someone who wanted to break up our marriage and didn't care what happened to her afterward. Quentin never intended to marry Delilah. His family's ultimatum was just convenient cover for what he'd planned all along: use her to get access to what he thought was my hidden wealth, then abandon her when it got complicated. The really sick part: Quentin's car dealership has been investigated for financial fraud. Apparently, he'd been using his access to wealthy clients to identify hidden assets for potential divorce cases and taking kickbacks from lawyers. The whole thing was a scheme he'd been running for years. Sarah, my financial advisor girlfriend, pointed out how predatory this was. He identified a woman who didn't understand complex finances, convinced her that her husband was cheating her financially, then used her to try to access money that didn't exist. I actually called Delilah last week after learning all this. First time we'd talked since the grocery store encounter. "I need you to know that I'm sorry," I told her. "Not for the settlement you asked for half and got half. But I'm sorry someone manipulated you into thinking I was hiding money from you," she cried on the phone. "Grayson, I destroyed our marriage because I believed someone who was using me. I thought you were keeping me poor on purpose." The conversation was honest but hard. We talked about how Quentin had exploited her insecurities about money and her background of growing up poor to convince her that I was the problem. Delilah's been working with a financial counselor and slowly rebuilding. She's still living with her parents but has a better job now and understands how debt and assets actually work. I should have talked to you instead of believing someone else's version of our finances. I won't lie, part of me wonders if things could have been different if we'd communicated better about money during our marriage. But Quentin specifically targeted that gap in our relationship to destroy it for his own purposes. He's facing fraud charges now, and his family has completely disowned him. The debutante he got engaged to broke it off when the investigation became public. Turns out using your family's car dealership to run divorce scams isn't great for the reputation. Delilah and I aren't getting back together, too much has happened, and we've both moved on. But at least now, I understand that she wasn't just chasing luxury. She was being systematically lied to by someone who saw our marriage as a business opportunity. Sarah and I talked about getting married next year. She appreciated that I was honest about the whole situation from the beginning and actually helped me restructure some of the debt to be more efficient. The business is doing better than ever. All that strategic leveraging paid off, and now I have actual equity instead of just apparent wealth. Ironic that Delilah's divorce settlement forced me to optimize my financial structure. As for Delilah, she told me she's learned to ask questions instead of believing people who tell her what she wants to hear. I hope I never trust someone else's version of my own life again. Sometimes the real villain isn't the person who leaves you, it's the person who convinces them to leave. Quentin destroyed our marriage not because he loved Delilah, but because he thought there was money in it. That's probably the most expensive lesson about trust anyone's ever paid for.